So, think about the world we live in right now. Like, you can track your pizza delivery by the exact second it leaves the store.
Right, down to the street corner.
Exactly. And you can instantly look up where your high school lab partner went on vacation 10 years ago. It's all just out there.
Oh, yeah. The digital footprint is permanent.
Yeah. And because of that, true anonymity has become, well, one of the most terrifying but also infuriating concepts to the modern mind.
It really has. We're living in a society that just demands this level of total exposure.
Totally. An exposure that would seem completely alien to any previous generation. I mean, it's wild. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one. It's a huge topic.
It is. Today we are unpacking a really fascinating paradox of modern life. And we're being guided by this deeply thought-provoking article from Psychology Today, written by Matthew Clemente and David Goodman.
Yeah, it's a fantastic piece.
Right? So our mission today for you, the listener, is to explore this intense tension. The tension between our culture's absolute obsession with total exposure, and then, on the flip side, the enduring and sometimes deeply frustrating power of remaining completely hidden.
Because it is arguably the defining contradiction of our current era, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we exist in this state of hyper-exposure. The pressure to always be on is just immense. I mean, people are constantly branding themselves.
Right, running their faces through, like, AI filters to smooth out blemishes or whatever.
Exactly. Brightening their eyes before posting a photo to an audience of people they will literally never meet in real life.
It's just so strange when you say it out loud.
It is. And yet, the moment you walk out your front door, you are passively being recorded by, what, a dozen neighbors' doorbell cameras?
Easily. Doorbell cameras, coffee shop security feeds, dash cams, you're just constantly perceived.
Right. But then, parallel to all of that, we are living in a golden age of hidden identities.
Yes, this is the paradox.
Exactly. You see these internet trolls pushing massive cultural narratives from behind, cartoon avatars or crowds of masked protesters clashing in the street.
Right, regardless of the political side, they're out there desperate to ensure their physical actions can never be tied back to their digital footprints.
Exactly. It's like everyone is screaming for attention, but nobody actually wants to be seen.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the authors of our source material, they frame this beautifully by pulling in a literary reference from over a century ago.
Yes, the T.S. Eliot poem.
Right, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock from 1915. And it highlights just how deep this human impulse runs, even if the technology we use to enforce it today is completely new.
It's brilliant that they included that.
Yeah, so Eliot wrote this incredible line about how we, quote, prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet.
Preparing a face? Wow.
Right, and reading that today is just jarring. Because he was, observing polite high society posturing in the early 20th century.
People putting on airs for a dinner party.
Exactly. He had absolutely no concept of a future where human beings would literally, digitally construct and augment a physical face just to present it to a void of anonymous strangers staring at glowing rectangles.
But he still recognized that psychological armor we all put on, right? He understood the curation of the self.
Yes, the curation.
What he couldn't have predicted was the sheer scale of the audience today. I mean, like you said, we're no longer preparing a face for a small gathering. We are preparing a face for the entire globe.
The entire internet.
Right. And that intense friction between crafting a highly visible public persona and desperately wanting to control what is actually known about us, that brings us to the massive catalyst for our conversation today.
Oh, man, yes. The Banksy unmasking.
Exactly. The global news agency Reuters recently published this major investigative piece claiming to finally unmask Banksy.
Which is huge. I mean, arguably the most famous street artist and political activist on the planet.
Right, a figure who has successfully guarded his identity for more than 30 years.
Over 30 years of keeping his real name completely out of the press, while, creating some of the most recognizable, valuable art in the world.
And the media just decided it was time to rip the mask off.
Yeah. But you know what I found most striking about that Reuters investigation? It wasn't the supposed evidence they found.
The old arrest record.
Right, an arrest record from the year 2000. That wasn't the wild part to me. The wild part was the moral high ground they tried to claim to justify doing it.
Oh, absolutely. The framing was so specific.
It really was. They didn't present this as, like, solving a fun pop culture trivia question for the fans. They framed this investigation as a necessary dedication to transparency and accountability.
Which is wild, because those are incredibly heavy-loaded terms.
Like, you hear transparency and you think of...
Elected officials.
Yes.
Transparency and accountability are words we typically reserve for politicians handling tax dollars or corporate executives managing public funds.
Exactly. Not a guy painting rats on brick walls.
Right. Applying that framework to a graffiti artist making political statements reveals something fundamental about modern psychology.
Okay, unpack that.
Well, what's fascinating here is that the media frames this as a noble pursuit of truth. But the authors of our source argue it's actually about sating a deeply voyeuristic desire.
A voyeuristic desire. I like that phrasing.
Yeah, because the human brain is essentially a prediction machine. We are neurologically wired to hate open loops. We hate unsolved patterns.
Oh, sure. Like when a song ends before the final chord. It's maddening.
Exactly. So when someone deliberately denies us information, especially in an age where we have everything at our fingertips, it creates this cognitive itch we just cannot stand.
You have to scratch it.
We have to. So we use words like accountability to justify scratching it.
Honestly, it feels like the media is treating culture like a true crime podcast.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. Like they are approaching art as a puzzle to be solved rather than an experience to be felt. The demand for total transparency assumes that if we just, acquire the data, the artist's legal name, their hometown, their old arrest records.
Then we'll finally understand the art.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that data is the key to the painting. It reduces a creative work to a simple mathematical equation.
And that is the core of the author's critique in the article. This relentless desire for complete knowledge at any cost is basically an affront to the concept of mystery.
An affront to mystery.
Yeah. Art is not meant to be comprehended or deciphered like a secret code. It is meant to evoke wonder.
Right.
By demanding to know the biography of the person holding the spray can, we strip the work of its infinite possibilities. We force it into the very narrow, often really mundane confines of a single human life.
Which begs a huge question for us as the audience, right?
Yeah.
If we pull back the curtain, does it ever actually satisfy our longing? Or does it just ruin the magic trick?
It almost always ruins it.
Right. Because think about walking past a brilliant, subversive piece of street art. It fundamentally challenges your worldview. It feels larger than life.
It has this immense power because of the unknown.
Exactly. But if you then open your phone and read an investigative report revealing the artist is just like an ordinary guy who likes golfing on the weekends and got arrested for a misdemeanor 25 years ago.
It changes everything.
It really does.
Yeah.
Does that mundane reality elevate the art? No, it usually just pops the bubble. The revelation rarely, if ever, lives up to the weight of the mystery.
It almost always collapses into disappointment because the fantasy we project onto the anonymous creator is always, always more compelling than their actual driver's license.
Yeah. But, if unmasking an artist collapses all that magic into a mundane reality, it makes you wonder.
Wonder what?
Is preserving that magic the primary reason artists hide in the first place? Or is there a much more grounded, survival instinct at play here?
Well, obviously there's the baseline legal pragmatism.
Right. Let's talk about the legal stuff.
Spray painting the side of a commercial building without a permit is vandalism. And vandalism equals jail time. So that 25-year-old arrest record Reuters dug up.
Yeah.
That is the exact practical reason street artists wear masks and run away in the dark.
That makes total sense. You hide so you don't get arrested.
Right. The practical shield against legal prosecution is the foundation. But the source material pushes past that immediate legal threat. They go into philosophical territory.
Okay, the philosophical field.
Yeah, specifically focusing on the idea of the flawed human being. Anonymity grants an artist the license to speak freely on highly controversial or deeply unpopular ideas.
Right, without their livelihood or their family facing personal backlash.
Exactly. But more profoundly, it deliberately separates the creation from the creator.
And that separation feels crucial, especially in our current cultural climate.
Absolutely.
I mean, we are living in an intense cult of personality. We exist in this influencer era where the creator is often significantly more famous and way more heavily scrutinized than the actual things they create.
Oh, 100%. The product is secondary to the person.
Right. And if you know an artist's personal history, their political leanings, or their messy public divorces,
it inevitably colors how you view their work.
It does. You cannot cleanly separate the two in your mind.
Yeah.
So choosing to be a nobody in a world where everyone is screaming to be somebody, that is an incredibly powerful, subversive statement.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, by intentionally removing themselves from the spotlight, The anonymous artist transcends their individual identity.
They become a symbol.
Right. And they extend a very specific invitation to you, the audience. They are forcing the world to judge the work purely on its own merits. They are actively removing the biographical lens we normally use to filter our opinions.
Think of it like a blind taste test in cooking.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, imagine you are a judge on a high-stakes culinary competition, right? If you know the plate of food sitting in front of you was cooked by a world-famous 3-Michelin-starred chef, your brain is already prepping you to experience brilliance.
You're biased toward liking it.
Exactly. Conversely, if you know the dish was prepared by a chef who was just involved in a massive, embarrassing public scandal, you are going to approach that first bite looking for flaws.
You're practically tasting the controversy.
You absolutely cannot help but be biased by the biography before the fork even hits your mouth. Your evaluation is based on the person, not the ingredients.
Right.
But you are blindfolded. You have zero context. You're forced to just taste the salt, the acid, the texture. You have to evaluate the substance, not the signature. Anonymous art is essentially the ultimate cultural blind taste test.
That analogy perfectly captures the philosophical ideal. The artist removes their ego from the equation so the audience can have a pure, unmediated encounter with the work.
Yes, the pure encounter.
Uh-oh.
Here comes the however.
Yeah, well, human beings are incredibly complex, and therefore the tools we use are rarely that simple in practice. We have to address the massive complications the authors introduce regarding modern anonymity.
Okay, I'm really glad we are going there, because here's where it gets really interesting. And I kind of have to call foul on the romantic purity of all this.
Call foul on what part?
The whole starving, faceless artist speaking truth to power in the dead of night thing.
Ah.
Because we were talking about massive financial empires built on these secret identities. Banksy isn't just a rogue spraying paint on alley walls. His works sell for tens of millions of dollars at elite auction houses.
They do. It's a huge industry.
Right. So when vast, staggering wealth enters the chat, I have to challenge the idea that this anonymity is just a noble philosophical stance.
Well, to be fair to the artists, we do have to recognize that the secondary art market drives a massive portion of that wealth.
The resellers.
Right. A lot of the hype and those exorbitant price tags are imposed on the artwork by billionaires bidding against each other at Sotheby's. It's not always engineered directly by the artist in the street.
Okay, sure, the secondary market is wild. But the artist still authenticates the work, right? They still manage the brand through official channels. The mystery itself has become the core marketing tool.
It definitely drives the value up.
It does. The less the public knows, the more the media speculates, and the higher the auction prices climb. The anonymity ceases to be just a protective shield or a philosophical canvas, and it becomes a highly lucrative, heavily guarded moat protecting a brand.
That's a very fair critique.
So, can we really call it a generous gift to the public if the artist is making millions, precisely because the anonymity generates so much hype?
This raises an important question, and it is a phenomenal point of friction in the article. The source material actually acknowledges this dark side.
They do.
Yeah, they note that anonymity isn't always a delicate veil. It frequently acts as a solid wall, and it can be utilized as a weapon.
A weapon? How so?
To deceive, to manipulate markets, and to defraud people from behind the absolute safety of a screen. We see this constantly on the internet.
Oh, right. Like anonymous crypto scams.
Exactly. Or fake corporate accounts spreading disinformation. The exact same tool that protects a brave whistleblower can completely shelter a con artist.
Wow, yeah, it is a tool that just amplifies whatever intent is behind it.
Exactly. Which is why the authors contrast the weaponization of anonymity with the concept of the truly anonymous good deed.
Okay, tell me about that.
Consider the person who walks into a diner, leaves a massive, life-changing tip for a struggling waitress, and slips out the door before anyone can see them.
Oh, I love stories like that.
All right, they demand no credit, they don't want to thank you, they don't want their generosity tied back to their ego.
They just want the good deed to exist in the world independently of them, which is like the exact opposite of recording yourself giving money to an unhoused person just to post it on social media for views and clout.
Exactly. The authors argue that this kind of anonymous gift is profoundly more generous because it entirely centers the act rather than the giver.
That makes total sense.
And a work of art offered without a name attached can function in that exact same meritorious way, when it is simply allowed to exist as a beautiful or challenging intervention in the public space.
Just a pure gift to the street.
Right. But your critique earlier is entirely valid. When tens of millions of dollars are swirling around the mystery, that purity becomes incredibly
It
murky.
gets so complicated.
It does. And this brings us back to the psychological root of why a profitable, anonymous figure frustrates society so deeply that global news organizations spend literally years hunting for decades-old arrest records.
Oh, right. Why are we so obsessed with tearing down that specific wall?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it drives the modern mind completely crazy to feel locked out of the room. We feel entitled to the data.
We really do. We live in a search engine reality. It has conditioned us to believe that all information is ours for the taking.
Yeah, you just type it in and hit enter.
Right, you can search any topic instantly. You can summon virtually any fact, access public records from your couch. We have this illusion of total informational dominance.
Informational dominance. That's exactly what it is.
And the absolute anonymity of another person shatters that illusion. It forcefully reminds us of the strict limits of our own knowledge.
It puts us in our place.
It does. It is a brick wall that tells us you are not allowed to access this and you do not get to control this narrative.
And because we absolutely hate that feeling of losing control, we dress up our frustration in words like accountability and transparency to justify tearing down the wall.
We do.
It is basically a defense mechanism against our own discomfort with the unknown.
We try to intellectualize our voyeurism to make it feel like a moral crusade.
Wow, that is so spot on. You know, this deep dive really holds a mirror up to all of us and the society we have built.
It really forces some self-reflection.
It does. Because anonymity is incredibly multifaceted. On the most grounded level, it is a practical shield from legal consequences.
Yes, keeps you out of jail.
But on a conceptual level, it is a philosophical canvas that forces us to taste the food blindfolded.
Yeah.
It strips away our personal biases and completely rejects the modern cult of personality.
But simultaneously, it operates as a potential weapon for deception. It's a lucrative branding strategy, and ultimately, it's a mirror reflecting our intense discomfort with the limits of our knowledge in a world that demands we know everything.
So as you go about your day, we want to ask you directly, how do you navigate this tension in your own life?
That's a hard question.
It is. How do you weigh the immense daily pressure to present that perfectly curated, AI-touched face to the doorbell cameras of the world against your own quiet, profound desire to just be unseen?
To simply exist in a public space without being perceived, monitored, categorized, or judged.
Exactly.
It is a psychological tightrope every single one of us walks the second we log onto a network or step outside our front doors.
Yeah. And we want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over on your own. A concept that builds directly on everything we've explored today regarding exposure, vast wealth, and identity.
It's a heavy thought.
It is. Think about this. If our current era demands constant, relentless self-promotion, and if it takes the vast legal and financial resources of a multi-millionaire artist to successfully maintain an absolute wall of privacy against the world's top investigative journalists,
Right.
then perhaps true anonymity is no longer a protective shield available to the average person. Perhaps in the very near future, the ability to completely erase yourself from the public eye won't be a right at all.
It'll be a privilege.
Exactly. It'll become the ultimate unaffordable luxury.
A world where true privacy is basically a premium subscription feature reserved solely for those who can afford to build the highest walls.
So the next time you walk past that security camera on your street or you frame up a photo to post online, ask yourself a question. Is the face you've prepared to meet the world yours by choice or because you simply cannot afford the luxury of being invisible?